What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Jim Rockwell Stadium here at New Lexington High School for Week 4 of Stadium Drive with Storied Rivals Sports Media. Will Ford, Aaron Sprague for Week 4 coverage tonight of a battle in the MVL Small School Division. These two teams, it's come down to these two to win the small school really each of the last 4 years. The New Lexington Panthers 3-0 on the season, hosting the 1-2 West Muskingum Tornadoes. And Aaron, this is a game that, like I said at the top, this game's decided the small school the last couple of years. Last year was a showdown on the hill at West M, 38-35. New Lex won in a nail-biter, and we're looking for another one here tonight.
Yeah, Will, it was an instant classic last year.
It was
one of the best games we covered all last year, and it happened so early in the season. That's what we talked about. It was like the league championship game in, Week 3, Week 4?
Yeah.
Right? So it kind of was a buzzkill a little bit because everyone knew those were the top two teams.
Right.
They'd already played. It's like, now who's going to beat them? Nobody. We already knew the standings because those two teams were going to finish out the season very strong. But it was a great game. And then we come into tonight down at Jim Rockwell Stadium here in Perry County. And it's a little interesting what the matchup is.
Yes.
With West Muskingum coming in at 1-2, a little surprising, I think, with what people thought was going to happen. And New Lexington feeling pretty good about their season so far.
And maybe a little surprising on their end as well, given how much – I mean, both of these teams graduated so many great, talented players last year. New Lex seems like they haven't missed a beat. West Muskingum still trying to figure some things out, though, and I guess that they've been without their starting center now for multiple weeks, and last week it kind of showed up in a big way with several snaps over the head of their quarterback and resulted in a lot of lost yardage. So their offense couldn't get in a rhythm last week against John Glenn. I mean, that game was tied at halftime, and just kind of got away from them with some of those mishandled snaps and things, losing yardage. Couldn't get in a rhythm, but they're just too talented with some of these skill position guys. Carter Smith, Braxton Brownrigg has been playing quarterback, but he can play running back and wide receiver too. You have Tavin Bennett, who's a long-armed wide receiver. They've got too many good players, and I think this offense is going to figure it out eventually.
That's what you got to think. They're going to figure it out. But like Coach Brownrigg had said, I mean, it's the whole offensive unit up front, right? It's not just the snaps, it's the whole unit. They got to get some more time for their offense to develop, to at least get those 3 yards or to run their offense. And when you look down at the roster, I mean, they are stacked with athletes. I mean, I think me and you were talking, I mean, we think that Carter Smith's probably the best overall athlete in the league this year.
I would agree with that.
Now, just pound for pound athlete, just can do everything, right? There's certainly some other good ones in the league, but if I had to start a team with a guy that I need to get me somewhere, Carter Smith is the guy. So you got him on the team, and like you mentioned, those other guys that can fly around, they're going to figure it out if they can get some time. Now, we looked at Fantastic50.net, so that's an Ohio website that does a lot of predictions, all computer-based in points, and they predict winners, right? Well, the prediction for this game was New Lex was going to win by over 30 points.
Which just does not feel right.
I don't think that's right. I mean, again, that's all computer generated just based off of how the season has played out so far. But I think it's going to be much closer than that. It is super impressive what Coach Board has done here at New Lexington. You can graduate a historic player like Isaiah Stevens at quarterback, Bentley Hansen at receiver. Those two names just stick out to me at the top of my mind.
Carson Kellogg was their running back last year.
Graduate those guys and then look almost as good with Mr. Ratliff back at quarterback.
And you could argue maybe even better. I mean, they are just so balanced offensively.
They're doing really well. And their biggest win so far is against Philo in Week 2. That was a good win. I think it's a Philo team that's probably going to make the playoffs and, of course, is going to be competing for the MVL Big School title as well.
Right, yeah, absolutely. And New Lex's offense, Paul Stenson, 8 touchdowns through 3 weeks. Colton Mathias, though, against Morgan, he had 100 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. So they have 2, 3, 4 guys that they can platoon in at the running back spot. Paul is also an outstanding defensive player, one of their best edge rushers. And really that's where New Lex's experience is up front on the offensive line and defensive line. I was talking to Coach Board. You guys maybe saw the clip out on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter on X earlier today. But they have 3 guys on the offensive and defensive line. They've played over 1,500 snaps, or over 1,000 snaps together, So that's huge for any football team, especially high school football, to have that kind of continuity up front, and that's a large part of the reason why they're 3-0.
Yeah, they're looking good, feeling good. I mean, sports and athletics down in New Lexington are feeling good right now. Last year the basketball team got to that regional tournament with a great season. Football, of course, was phenomenal a year ago, and now right back at it. So the buzz is certainly high down here in New Lexington, and it's a fun time. But again, I think this is going to be a great matchup because of the players West Muskingum has. They're a very deceptive 1-2. Once they figure it out, they got the weapons to be dangerous. And of course, Coach Brownrigg is a veteran coach. He's been around the game for a long time. He's gonna piece some things together. I did want to mention some other games. There are some other teams that are doing well, or some other games tonight. One that stuck out from last week, I think all of us opened our eyes, was that Tri-Valley win over Clinton Massey, 35-0.
And I saw Coach West at Tri-Valley when I was dropping something off last week, and I was like, man, great game. I thought you guys were going to win. I didn't think you were going to shut them out. And he was like, well, I didn't either, because Clinton Massey is just such a powerhouse football program. But Tri-Valley, I think a lot of people in the
anybody that's
around
here
thought, Tri-Valley might be a little down to start the year, and man, oh man, they're 2-1.
Yeah.
Close loss to Granville. They pushed Granville to the limit. I mean, it's a really good Tri-Valley football team, and what Cam's done so far has been really impressive.
Yeah, they've come a long way. That certainly was a shot in the arm. They're hosting Morgan tonight down at Jack Anderson Stadium, trying to move to 3-1 on the year. But again, you lose Coach Wright in the offseason to an unexpected death. Coach West comes back. You graduate all those studs from a year ago, historic players. I mean, anyone that watches football, I don't think it's not even unfair to say they might take a little dip. I think that was fair.
Yeah, 100%.
But they've taken that chip on their shoulder, said no, not yet. So now, I mean, you almost got to think, looking at it, they might be the front runner to go back and win that MVL title.
Yeah, and we mentioned Philo. They're playing some pretty good football. Nice win against Maysville last week. You said they're going to be a playoff team. They're going to be in the conversation. I think a lot of us thought Sheridan was going to be in that conversation, and now they've had some injuries to start the year, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
You can't predict those things. But I think once they kind of weather through that storm, they're a team that can challenge Tri-Valley at the end of the year. And, I mean, it's going to be some good football.
Well, there's
left
still
to be
so
played.
many unknowns. I mean, you talk about John Glenn. Coach Edwards does a great job. They got the big win last week over West Muskingum. They're still right in it. I mean, right now you can't count anybody out, but just looking at what Tri-Valley did last week, I got to go ahead and anoint them now the front runner, because it's been impressive.
Yes, and Crooksville is also 3-0, and do want to mention, prayers for the Crooksville community as well, with the sad news that came out yesterday.
Yeah, lost one of their students, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really unfortunate, but they're a team that's 3-0, and so they'll have something to say about these MVL standings too.
And they're hosting Meadowbrook tonight.
Yes.
Meadowbrook is at Crooksville. I think that's going to be a good game, because Meadowbrook is, they're not probably the best team in the league, but they do have some weapons.
They do have some weapons.
And they're coming off a big win over Cambridge. So that's going to be an emotional game for Crooksville as well, and it's down there at Crooksville. So.
Yeah, that's going to be one to keep your eyes on tonight. But the game tonight, New Lex, West Muskingum. Over the years, it has decided the MVL Small School Division. Crazy to kind of put that amount of pressure on a Week 4 game. It is their first league game of the year, both sides. But it's a big game nonetheless. So we're happy to be here. We talked to Coach Kevin Board of the New Lex Panthers about their 3-0 start, about this dominant running game, about that dominant offensive line. Here's Coach Board live here on Facebook, X, and YouTube with Storied Rivals. Thanks for being here, and here's Coach Board. Kevin Board, New Lex Panthers, 3-0 on the season, joining us for Week 4 with Stadium Drive and Storied Rivals Sports Media. Coach, congrats on the 3-0 start to the season, and thanks, as always, for your time, man. And I know that we've talked about, Paul Stenson, your running back, extensively in previous weeks. He's got 8 touchdowns through 3 games, but last week against Morgan, Colton Mathias stepped up and had 100 yards on the ground. He had 2 touchdowns. I'm sure it's got to be nice to have 2 guys like Paul and Colton who, you can kind of platoon them in, get them both carries, and they've both been effective on the ground through 3 games.
Yeah. Hey, well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's been really good so far. Off to a great start. I mean, as good as we can be right now, 3-0. I really credit a lot of Paul and Colton's success to our offensive line. I think they've really taken pride in their unit this year, and that's why we're allowed to put 2, 3, 4 different guys back there, and we're having sustained success because those guys are our experience. They're between Eli and Tristan and Chase. I mean, they've played together over 1,000 some snaps. It's we have a lot of experience there, and that's where where we were kind of leaning early on. Paul, obviously, because he's one of our best defensive linemen, he's got big guys leaning on him on the other half of the ball. So to be able to spell him and get him 3, 4, 5 carries and then get him or plays and then get him out, then be able to put Colton in and you're not losing anything. I mean, they're a little different runners, but they both run hard, and so I think that it really helps us to be able to spell Paul with Mathias and and get a little different look. Terrell, somebody that we've put back there, Terrell King, he adds a little bit different type of style as well. And then even sophomore Gunnar Patton has had a handful of carries too. But last week we were up 33-0 at halftime, and Paul had kind of dinged his hand up a little bit. Nothing serious, but knowing that we have West coming up in a big game in our small school schedule, it's like, well, man, we got a running clock to start. Let's get him out and let's focus on getting to Colton and Gunnar those next reps, and that's going to help Gunnar's development as he continues to get more and more reps. But it was a good night for Colton, but I think it boils back down to those 5 guys up front. And I think they've done a tremendous job through 3 weeks and have really prided themselves on being the most dominant unit on the field.
Yeah, 33 unanswered points in that first half. And like you mentioned, the running clock going into the second half. I mean, how valuable is that just from a team standpoint? You mentioned kind of the health of Paul, but you're getting a bunch of other kids some opportunity to play on both sides of the ball, because of that lead that you built up. How valuable is that, especially this early in the year?
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. Our big thing is, we know we don't have, we're not as deep as probably we were a year ago. We've got a small senior class, but a ton of sophomores that are like the next guy up. And so we know in a year, some of those sophomores are going to be juniors that have to play. So being able to get them reps on a Friday night where they can get the experience is tremendous. It helps down the road if you get a guy banged up that they've had Friday night reps before it's time for them to take a Friday night rep. It's similar to like playoffs. You get those extra weeks of practice and development the longer you're playing. Those guys have just gotten a ton of extra reps. So it was good. We were able to get out healthy. And Paul's injury is not just kind of dinged. We were more or less like, hey, there's no reason to risk it, and
right.
Get it worse or serious. He's playing. I don't know if this is a live. He'll play Friday and he'll be just fine. But it allowed us to get some of those guys reps and get out fresh and healthy. So that's obviously our most important. And some of our coaches, they get fired up that our JV doesn't stop the varsity when they're in there. And I understand that for point differentials and stats and everything else. But at the end of the day, like those guys are getting more valuable reps doing that than they would on a Saturday. So if we can get guys in the game, we're going to get them in there. And I thought that they went out and competed well and got some valuable experience that we may need them to have down the road.
And I know we talked weeks ago and also preseason that, last year for the majority of the year, you didn't have a kid like Tyson Spicer on your offense, but what a luxury is it to have him healthy and on the field. I mean, he had over 100 yards receiving and a touchdown, and that's just another element to your offense, kind of that over the top and just downfield threat that you have.
Yeah, no, he's great, man. Tyson's an awesome competitor. He's very dynamic, and we've got several different guys that offer a slightly different skill set than some of the guys we've had in the last year or two. Obviously, having Tyson last year would have been huge, but it allowed some other guys to step in and get some roles. But it's been great to have him. Obviously, he's a guy we want on the field, and he's the guy that needs to get the most catches for us and some of our most touches. But no, he's very versatile in what he can do. We can line him up outside. Last year he played outside with Bentley playing in the slot. This year we've kind of moved him more into the slot to be able to do some of the things that Bentley did because they have similar skill sets. But we could easily bump him back outside and play a different personnel group, and he's just fine there too. So I think being able to move him around and utilize him in a plethora of different ways has been very, very good for us as well.
Now you've got West M on the schedule this week, a big game in the small school division in the MVL. And this game really over the last, 2, 3, 4 years, it's decided who is eventually won the league championship, in your division. So big game and obviously still early in the season, but West M's 1-2. They lost to John Glenn last week, 28-7. They've been kind of playing 2 quarterbacks, Braxton Brownrick, who is very dynamic with his legs. He was more of a receiver type player, but stepped in at quarterback to start the season. But then a sophomore, Noah Morrison, has stepped in and he seems like he's got some good zip on his passes as well. How do you prepare for a team that kind of works in 2 quarterbacks?
You approach it just like you would any other week. You're going to tell them the game plan, like, hey, these 2 guys, here's their skill sets. Here's what we have to prepare for and understand when 15's not a quarterback, he's a receiver where he played last year, where he's very dynamic. He's one of the fastest kids in the league without question. So, it's funny, actually a couple of years ago when Rashid was there, he was their starting quarterback and, got dinged up, I think, his ankle early on. So they started playing Jake early, or probably earlier than what
Right.
Coach really wanted to. And that allowed him to really flourish and become the great quarterback that he was. But so I kind of related a little bit to that, Braxton is a tremendous runner. He's very fast, very elusive. Obviously he's played quarterback, so it's not like it's uncommon to him or out of his element. But when he can step out at the slot receiver and get some jet sweeps or take a vertical route, like we've got to know that he's out there and not get ran past. So I wouldn't say that it's really like, oh man, we've got to really prepare for two. We just have to understand when he's outside, he's not moving out there to not get the ball. Like they're putting him out there to throw it to him or to hand it to him. So just knowing where he's at, sort of similar to how we would with Rasheed when he was there. It's like, hey, you know where this kid is, right? He's one of the most dynamic kids. So if he's to your side, you've got to be alert.
Yeah. Now with Braxton, if he moves around the field, and then you've got guys like Carter Smith as well, who's really dynamic. Tavin Bennett is a long-armed receiver. They've got good backs. Their offense, it's been a little slow going for them through the first couple of weeks, but I feel like with their talent at these skill positions, they're kind of a sleeping giant in a way. And once they kind of get into a rhythm and kind of figure things out, do you feel like that their skill positions and everything, like, I'm sure you probably think they could cause some issues for you defensively, just trying to defend all of these guys, but do you kind of see them as top of the line in the MVL, like near you guys as far as how their skill positions look?
Well, they're always going to be top because Coach Brownriggs is there and he's coaching them. Like they're going to be disciplined. They're going to be sound in what they're doing, and he does a tremendous job. Obviously, they lost a lot of horses last year on the outside and then up front.
Yeah.
And that to me is where they're more different this year because they're just younger up front with a lot of those guys not getting reps. For the last few years, it's been guys that have been there 3 and 4 year starters. So, Carter Smith is arguably one of the best athletes in the league, big and small. He's very dynamic. He's long. He can run. He can jump. He can do a lot of different things. They move him around. They put him in the backfield and hand it to him. They put him outside and throw it to him. So, he to me is their most dynamic weapon. Bennett is a guy that won them the Licking Valley game last year with the jump ball in the end zone. He's a very good deep threat that can go up and get any ball. So, talking with corners about knowing the situation, know who you're up against and what their skill sets present. They've got a good shifty back. I don't think that their record truly portrays who they are. If you watch the John Glenn film, they had probably their backup center played the whole second half due to must have been an injury
right.
to the center, and you had 5 or 6 bad snaps where you're losing 10 or 15 yards. So now it's 2nd and 25, 2nd and 30. It's tough to get into a rhythm there. So they really just didn't help themselves out. But I think that we've really talked with our guys about the potential that they have with the weapons that they have. And I think that's kind of what you're saying is that, I think that if things are going well and they're getting their snaps, I think they can play with anybody, just like anybody would. But, I think they're going to be a problem the rest of the year. I think they're going to win 7 ball games, 7 or 8, depending on what the record is right now and how many games they have. But they're going to be very competitive. They're going to play with anybody because of their coaching. And they've got athletes that are better than a lot of teams' athletes are going to have. So, like I said, we're not treating them as a 1 and 2 team. We're treating them as a team that's coming in 3 and 0. They're treating them as a team that wants to do the same things we want to do. We want to win the small school division, and it starts with game 1. But we're also not playing this up as a small school title because there's still 4 more games to go. You got Crooksville that's 3 and 0.
Right.
You've got Meadowbrook that played with Tri-Valley for 3 quarters. There's some good teams in the league that we don't want to build this up to be so big that the pressure is so high for a new group of skill guys, and then they're not playing at the level they should. I think that our offensive line and our returners have kind of put a chip on their shoulder because all off season and preseason was, well, what are you going to do without Bentley and Isaiah and Carson, all these guys that were leaving? But there was so many guys that were still here that they've kind of put that chip on their shoulder that those guys are great but they're gone. But we're still here. So I think that they're really priding themselves in reminding folks that they've been around the block a few times themselves. So. I look for it to be a great game, an incredible atmosphere. It's been a great game the last few years. Hopefully we come out on top of it.
Yeah, that's very well said by you. Media guys like me are the ones that put pressure on this type of game, so early, just because you guys have had great battles the last handful of years, and the last couple of years, it's either been you or West to win the small school division. But, I take the blame for putting pressure on a game, on a week 4 game with 4 league games left in the season. But Coach, thanks so much for hopping on today, man, talking some football. It's great to talk to you again, and best of luck against West. And I guess starting your quest to defend the small school with the first league game. And always appreciate it, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you Friday.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Will. I appreciate all you do.
Big thanks to Coach Board for hopping on again for another week of Stadium Drive. And this running game for New Lex, it's been absolutely dominant. Paul Stenson, he was player of the game for Stadium Drive back in week 2 against Philo on the road with an unbelievable performance, 180 yards rushing, a couple touchdowns, and outstanding player on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. But this running game in totality has been outstanding behind their experienced offensive line. And another player who I got to give some love to is Colton Mathias, because against Morgan, they scored 33 unanswered points in the first half, led to a running clock in the second half. So they were able to work in a lot of guys, as you heard Coach Board said. It's very valuable for the first half of the season to get a lot of younger guys in and get them some experience. But Colton Mathias, 19 carries, 100 yards, 5 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns. His longest touchdown run was 20 yards, and that was in that Week 3 win at Morgan. Mathias, Stenson, doing it all on the ground, and Stenson does a lot on the defensive side of the ball as well. But you can't forget about a lot of their other playmakers. Lane Ratliff at quarterback, he is just built. Another lefty slinging it around for New Lex in Coach Board's system. He can run, he can throw. You got Terrell King out there. Tyson Spicer had himself a game against Morgan as well, and he's getting back into the flow of things. So let's look at Paul's stats last week, because he still ran the ball well even though he sat out most of the second half. Tyson Spicer, 7 receptions, 109 yards, a receiving touchdown, almost 16 yards a catch. And Paul, 9 carries, 61 yards, almost 7 yards a carry, and he added another rushing score to his total this season. Like I said, he has 8 through 3 weeks this year. New Lex offense is humming. So is their defense. So is their entire team in this 3-0 start. But let's move over now to the other side of this matchup tonight. The 1-2 West Muskingum Tornadoes. We talked to head coach Nate Brownrigg. The offense has kind of sputtered a little bit through 3 weeks. And a large part of that is to do with their protection up front. That offensive line has got to play a little bit better. And last week, they were working against themselves a lot with snaps over the head of their quarterback. And that led to over 90 yards lost on fumbles or muff snaps on offense. And so it's just impossible to get your offense in a rhythm that way. But also, let's be honest, too, that's an anomaly. That almost never happens, and I can guarantee that it's more than likely not going to happen. I say guarantee, and then I say more than likely. There's no way that happens again tonight for West Muskingum. If they play a clean football game offensively, don't turn the ball over, with their playmakers, Carter Smith, Braxton Brownrigg, Tavin Bennett, they've got good running backs. With their offensive talent and a younger quarterback like Noah Morrison, if he plays a little bit more slinging the ball around, there's no reason why this offense can't go tit for tat with New Lex here tonight at Jim Rockwell Stadium. But let's talk to head coach Nate Brownrigg of the West End Tornadoes. Talks about not having his center in the last couple of weeks, the mishandling of the snaps, getting this offense in a rhythm, but about these skill position guys a little bit more in depth. Talks about Noah Morrison as a young quarterback, splitting time with Braxton Brownrigg, just figuring things out against this super talented, well-coached New Lex football team. Here is Nate Brownrigg, West End Tornadoes live here on Stadium Drive, week number 4 on Facebook, X, and YouTube. Nate Brownrigg, West Muskingum Tornadoes, going into week 4 with Stadium Drive, and always appreciate your time, Coach. And 1-2 to start the season, 28-7 loss to John Glenn last week. But I noticed, though, and I'm sure a lot of people did, that your center was out during that game. So a big person up front as far as establishing, the line of scrimmage on the offensive side of the ball, led to some snaps going over the head of your quarterback and things like that, and maybe just prevented your offense from getting into, some sort of rhythm in that game. I guess an update on that situation. Will your starting center be back? And I guess how are you feeling about the offense as you move into week 4?
Yeah, the snap issues last week were definitely a big factor. Carson Lewis, who's our starting center the last few weeks, is really built more to be a tackle, but by necessity he's had to play down there. And then he got dinged last week, so he'll be out again this week. But it's something we've been working on, and yes, like you mentioned, it's hard to get into any kind of rhythm when last week we had 6 errant snaps for negative 90 yards, and that's really hard to overcome for anybody, but especially in our case we got an offense that's still building up their experience, building up that the maturity and understanding of things, and some guys playing some different spots. So definitely looking forward to, and again, those are things that we tried to address in practice this week to hopefully avoid those. But even before that, looking back to week 2 and even week 1 where we won, we've struggled to execute consistently, and so we've practiced well, and but now our emphasis in practice has got to be on practicing for Friday night and executing in situations on Friday nights, not just practicing to practice well on a Tuesday. Need to have a good day. So that's been our focus, and we've tweaked things here and there, but we're excited and ready to go.
You mentioned players playing in different positions, and one of them who isn't playing in a different spot this year is Braxton, your son. He's been playing quarterback, but then you've also worked in Noah Morrison as well, a sophomore. So both of them have had some time at quarterback. Braxton is very dynamic with his legs. Obviously, he's been a playmaker, playing wide receiver and things the last couple of years. And then Noah seems like he throws a good ball as well. I guess what's your evaluation through? I mean, 3 weeks is not a whole lot of time, and not a whole lot of game tape, but what's your evaluation on how well those guys have played, and I guess who gives you the best shot to win football games playing that quarterback position?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it was always kind of part of the plan to start incorporating Noah and developing him as the season went along. To be honest, that's probably happening a little bit earlier than we originally anticipated because of the position that we're in right now. But Brax did a good job for coming in there and doing what he can, made a lot of plays, especially week 1. But it's one of those things where, as a coach, you sit back and all right, like where does this kid really help us out in what position and stuff like that. And so it's one of those things that, besides the development side of Noah and even some more younger guys, we're gonna have some more younger guys in game Friday night because we're just at a spot where some guys that we wanted to be able to play both ways, every snap is just, it's not getting it done. And so we got to try to save some bodies and stuff like that, and use more bodies on Friday. So you're going to see some young guys in there this week. Noah's one of them, but besides just his development, just putting guys like Brax in a position that's a little bit more natural, position that we can use his skill set. From wide receiver or running back. Same thing with guys like Carter Smith, who's been a little limited in the receiving category up to this point, but that's been more of our lack of ability to throw and protect and snap. And so addressing those things, but he's a guy that's going to move around a little bit too. He's going to take some snaps at tailbacks and quarterbacks and wide receiver. And so we're just kind of searching for a way to get our guys, the guys who need to touch the ball, searching for ways right now to make that happen. And then the bottom line is, and again, this is our focus for the week, and it'll continue to be our focus, is we have to execute. And so no matter what we prep or what we call, guys got to go out there and execute 11 guys, at the same time. It's what makes football the greatest game in the world to me, is that you got to have 11 dudes, not just one guy, out there to do stuff. But at the same time, we got to find some guys and find some ways that, when that one or two guy does not quite get his job done on either side, which of our guys can overcome that and make plays despite that. And so that's kind of what we're searching for, and looking to see it show up on Friday night.
So if Braxton does move to more of a natural position, like you said, running back or wide receiver, and Noah is maybe playing that quarterback position more, you'd have Braxton. You mentioned Carter Smith. You have Tavin Bennett. You've got good running backs too. I mean, I still feel like your skill positions are really it's top of the line when you look at across the MVL. Do you still feel like if you can kind of figure out the protection and the snaps and everything, that with your skill positions, and even albeit a younger quarterback, that this offense, once it kind of finds a rhythm, you can compete with anyone in the league?
Absolutely. I think, I've told the guys this all since last year. I was really excited to see some of these new guys, be able to step in and get their opportunity on Friday nights. But along with that, we do have some really explosive and quality guys back. And so, our skill, our athleticism, really even our size, strength, speed, all of those things are on par with, with a lot of teams that we play. And so, again, it comes down to, our guys executing, the game plan on both sides of the ball, and then also being able to, a huge thing that I'll be honest, I kind of, I guess I didn't like overlook it, but maybe the impact is significantly bigger than I thought coming into the year. But besides all the skill and stuff that we've lost over the last couple of years with, Rashid's whole class and all those guys, Jake and all those guys last year, like we talked about before, it's not necessarily the abilities that we're searching to replace right now. It's the experience and leadership that those guys provided. And, so that's something that, we're going to continue to work on. And, sadly, or unfortunately, really the only thing that, the only way to gain experience is to actually get experience. And so
right.
That's kind of what we're in the middle of right now. But I'm very confident that, once it does click, that we're going to be a really good football team.
Now, this week against New Lex on the road, it's a game that over the last couple of years has decided the small school division in the MVL, and you guys played a thrilling game last year. It's new teams for both sides. I mean, New Lex graduated a lot of talent, but their offense seems to be humming pretty well, at least through the first 3 weeks, with Lane Ratliff at quarterback, and Colton Mathias and Paul Stenson have both been running the ball really, really effectively. They've got some good skill position players on the outside. Tyson Spicer had over 100 yards receiving the other day, or last week, I should say. But when you look at how balanced their offense is, what do you try to take away defensively first? And then obviously you'll make adjustments during the game. But I guess what's kind of the focus when you step onto the field those first couple series defensively?
Well, again, first of all, Coach Board does a tremendous job. His kids understand. You can tell they understand what they're supposed to do. That's what allows them to kind of look way more complex than they are. He does a really good job of those first, 8 to 10 plays, scripting things in, and that's where he gets a lot of his tricks and kind of funky formations in and things like that. And so, number one, defensively, we need to kind of weather that storm, because he's going to throw us some things that we haven't been able to prepare for, even though, I just spent some time this afternoon kind of making up some random stuff that I thought maybe Coach Board may come up with. So we got to weather that storm. And then after that, it's and this is kind of how it's been with them, the last several years, is you got to get them off. You got to get them out of rhythm. And so it's like, being successful on first and second down, getting them into longer situations where their play menu goes down a little bit, because we know they have to throw the ball. They don't have that, option of or luxury of being able to do either one. So that's a big thing. We got to, get them off track, and in long yardage situations, we obviously have to tackle really, really well. They're explosive, and so like if they get out in space and we miss or we're not pursuing the way we're supposed to be in rallying, then they got several guys who can break and make big plays, and that's what they've done, and that's what they're doing again this year.
Does the sense of urgency kind of pick up for a game like this? I mean, it's still early season, but you're 1-2, and obviously this game has been huge in deciding the small school standings and kind of who wins the league the last couple years. What's the sense of urgency among you and your staff, but also the players as you get ready to play these Panthers in a couple days?
Yeah, I think this game the last 4 years has always kind of come with a sense of urgency because of the situation and the way it's worked out. But looking where we are right now, it's not like we're looking at this really any different than we had the last couple of years when we were 2-1 going into it a year ago. The last couple of years really. But this game's about for sure the way it's worked out. It's kind of decided the winner of the division the last few years. But in reality, it's so early that this doesn't necessarily decide the winner, but it decides kind of who's in control of their own destiny, or and so that's kind of always our goal, is to be the ones that are in that control, and not have to be waiting on someone else to trip them up or make something happen when we're not involved in those things down the road. So that's number one. And our goals, we talked about this the last time we talked. I think that our goals don't change. Our goals are still to win the MVL Small School Championship, and then set ourselves up for the second season in the playoffs. Now we've the first or the last 2 weeks here, we've kind of put ourselves in a hole when it comes to that. But our number one goal of winning the league is still right in front of us, and so we got to put together a good week and go execute on Friday night.
Well, it's good to see you and talk to you, man. I'm glad that we've got a chance to sit down for 10 minutes and talk some ball, and good luck to you on Friday. Looking forward to watching the game, man, and it's great to talk to you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Appreciate Coach Brownrigg for his time joining us with Stadium Drive, and I do think West Muskingum has maybe the best football player and athlete in the MVL, and that's Carter Smith. Carter Smith had a touchdown against John Glenn last week. Beginning of the season to open the year, maybe the first touchdown scored in Ohio. 98-yard kick return touchdown against the Lakewood Lancers. Unbelievable play. Dropped the kickoff, picked it up, ran around, bobbing and weaving, runs 98 yards for a touchdown. And then the 3-yard touchdown, like I mentioned, against John Glenn last week, kind of struggled to move the ball a little bit. But I do think Carter Smith, without a doubt in my mind, is one of, if not the best football player and athlete in the MVL. There's certainly several other players that will have something to say about that. You have Ryan LaMonica, Tri-Valley, Lane Ratliff, the quarterback on the opposing team tonight for New Lex. So many great football players and athletes and kids in the MVL, big school, small school. Carter Smith is one of the best, though, and I think for West Muskingum to have a chance, they've got to give him the ball, give it to him often, and just let him make plays. If he's got the ball in his hands, special stuff is going to happen, and I envision that being the case for West Muskingum if they can play clean football and not turn the ball over and get this offense back into a flow. But this matchup tonight, before we get into the other matchups that are in our coverage area tonight, let's take a look at the not season series, but the last 10 matchups between these two programs. And if I can find it, maybe I can show it to you. There it is. So when you look at the last 10 matchups between these two teams, the last 4 years, it's really decided the MVL Small School Division. New Lex won it last year, 38-35. West End the year before, 34-13. And then New Lex, and then West End 2022 and 2021. And then everything previously, all New Lex. Now, obviously, this is in a time pre-Kevin Board taking over as the New Lex Panthers head coach and pre-Nate Brownrigg taking over as the West Muskingum Tornadoes coach. This is the era now that we live in, Board and Brownrigg, this rivalry, this coaching matchup. It's why these two teams have been so great and so back and forth the last couple of years. It's a chess match. It's an unbelievable game that these two teams play every single year. Last year was a nail-biter. We're looking for the same tonight. But let's take a look at the rest of our schedule here for Storied Rivals Sports Media. We'll start with East and Northeastern Ohio. So we've got Garaway on the road at Zanesville. Utica is hosting the Ridgewood Generals. Union Local on the road at Harrison Central in a league game. John Glenn at Coshocton after a nice win against West End last week. Sheridan, close win against Licking Heights in week 2, hosting the Maysville Panthers, who are 2-1. Meadowbrook is at Crooksville, and again, we just want to acknowledge, the tragic events that happened with the Crooksville community yesterday, and really our hearts here at Storied Rivals go out to that community. It's a tragic loss that they've suffered, and we just pray for the friends and family of everyone involved. But Meadowbrook is on the road at Crooksville. Crooksville is 3-0. Philo is hosting Riverview. Tri-Valley hosting Morgan. Talmadge on the road at Copley. And Worcester hosting Madison Comprehensive. Now we'll get into Central and Western Ohio. So Centerville, they're hosting Fairmont. Westerville Central hosting Dublin Jerome. Dublin Scioto at Westerville South. Olentangy Orange, my oh my, they have been absolutely dominant through 3 weeks, putting up 42 points a game. At home versus Gahanna. Bexley is at Grandview Heights. Granville on the road at Washington Courthouse. Fairfield Union at Hamilton Township. Hilliard-Davidson is hosting Hilliard-Darby. Jonathan Alder at North Union. New Albany hosting Upper Arlington. Upper Arlington, 50-0 win last week. Absolutely dominant. That's going to be a great game. Olentangy at Central Crossing. Olentangy Berlin at Olentangy Liberty. Both of those teams 0-3 and looking for their first win. At the bottom of your screen, Marysville hosting Hilliard Bradley. So that is the schedule for Storied Rivals here in Week 4. Really appreciate you joining us for yet another week of high school football. We want to shout out someone who's been a partner with us for a long time, maxeffortmuscle.com, the best tasting protein in the game. They've got protein, supplements, aminos, cool shaker bottles, merch, shirts, anything and everything that you can think of from a fitness perspective. They've got it, and they're the best in the business. We love partnering with these guys. Corey G and the guys, check them out on social media, maxeffortmuscle.com. Really appreciate it. But let's play some football. It's great weather here in New Lex. Jim Rockwell Stadium. We're going to get kicked off here in about 20 minutes. So it's time for some football, baby. Week 4, it's the 3-0 New Lex Panthers, the 1-2 West End Tornadoes. Drop down below in the comments who you think is going to win this game and who you think the Stadium Drive player of the game will be for week number 4. But I'll get out of here. Make sure you stay tuned to all the socials tonight, Facebook, Instagram, and X for score updates, highlights throughout the night, scores at the very end of the night with all the teams that we've been covering. And I'll see you guys in week number 5. Time's just flying by. It's almost middle of the season. But happy football. Thanks for joining me.